on, hey! Good job, Aaron!
Hey man, he's making me look bad.
That's my boy! That's my boy! Okay, that's Wilbur. Wilbur. Hey,
Aaron, don't say giddy up, okay?
that's not Wilbur. Wilbur was yelling. Boy, that's a big nose. Oh, sorry.
The horse does. I think you meant these bad. You're not really sensitive on my own.
Jing, 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 jing. Oh, yes, it's lovely weather for a sleigh ride together with me.
What's your son?
That's my son. That's
Hi, Desiree.
He's a little bit tough.
Denise, I'm sure you're glad you're not here.
Yeah.
Have you seen... Oh, are we sliding? Almost. It's close.
Oh, Fred. How you doing?
River streams upon your chest. Christmas. Just 7.5 months along. Huh? 8 months along. Beautiful lips. Christmas Eve. Traditional anti-Christmas Eve steak dinner. And of course, yours truly.
Blake. And Eric. There's a telling me. Desiree. Well, Aaron, I must have yours on top here. Can I have one mother? This is to the baby, Debbie. Where'd she go? Right here. That's, so the new baby will have a hair here, Aaron.
Okay. Some of the things I remember about Christmas. Mom always put a lot of effort into making Christmas a special time for us children. It must have been a very difficult task for her because Dad always had kind of a blah humbug attitude towards the season of the year, very special season of the year. As I think back on it now, I think he must have felt guilt. He then felt very guilty when he wasn't providing for his family, and when he felt guilty, he'd go off and drink for 2-3 weeks and do his job. He had no problems. He really did. Problems that I'll never know, and none of us will ever realize at one time. I can remember a lot of years that Mom worked with us, all of us children. As you know, I was the oldest of 5, and the oldest of 5. Teaching us to make paper and popcorn garlands to a tree, and we decorated the tree where we thought it was beautiful. And we had a special Christmas decoration box that stayed in her closet all year long, and she only took it out just before Christmas, and we'd all get decorate the tree together at home there in Canyonville and bring back a tree. And I was always quite proud of the trees I'd bring home. When we first got married, I tried the same technique, and I went up on the mountain behind the critter house we lived in. The first year we were married in 1960, and I brought back a tree, and Grandma Carol laughed at me, and then she cried and thought I went and got another tree. And I discovered that she was really picky about trees. I love the memories of how my sisters and my brothers and I, when we would go shopping with our somewhat limited Christmas money funds so that we could buy gifts for each other. And that's about all I've written down.
You should ask for the kids before it's secret? I don't think we should be part of it.
And here, this is why Grandma and I used to give you guys a couple lifesavers this year.
I used to get those for kids too. Every year I get one of those.
I love those too. I used to get those from...
Where did you find them? I haven't seen them.
Sure, you know that?
So you
Do you know where the tradition came from?
Dad?
every year for 50 years, the children in our family always got books of lifesavers. Store.
That's neat.
That's all I have.
Okay. My memories of Christmas past, In our home, Christmas always brought much excitement to our home. My father would be responsible for getting the tree, and he worked in the woods, and sometimes he would have it already picked out before we went to cut it. Sometimes I would get to go with him, but most of the time, he just brought it home when he came home from work. And I'll interject something here that's probably where I get my pickiness about my tree, because my father was very picky about it. It had to be perfect. My mother, your great-grandma Ruby, would make Christmas cookies and candy. She was let us girls help. As I got older, this was something I had to do by myself. I always liked to bake and make desserts. After your grandpa days when I was married, for a while he thought that's all I could do. Christmas Eve was really a lot of fun in our home. We would gather in the vicinity of the Christmas tree like we are tonight, and we usually would be around the Christmas tree, and we would sing Christmas carols and anticipate the one gift that we would get to open that night. Silent Night, is not the song we sung at night, was my favorite Christmas song, and it still is. I remember sitting around the tree singing these Christmas songs about the Savior. Those are my favorite, and crying. Me and my sisters, we would cry. I love the songs about Jesus and his birth. My mother taught us the real meaning of Christmas and why we celebrated it. As far back as I can remember, my mother had the nativity scene. The characters, like Joseph and Mary and baby Jesus and the shepherds and the angels, etc., were made out of a wax, and they were hand-painted. We loved to rearrange the nativity and admire the baby Jesus. She also had a village that sat below the Christmas tree, and it had several houses, of which one was a church. A string of 7 Christmas lights was used to light each of the buildings. I remember the year we got the bubble lights. They were clipped to the lower branches and were shaped like candles. And when you first turned them on, it took a while for the fluid in the light to heat, so they would bubble. And this was really a lot of fun to watch. We would sit for an hour after my dad got the tree up and watch those bubble lights bubbling, because they were neat, you know. I still like to watch. Christmas shopping was always a lot of fun. We would have a certain amount of money we each could spend, and it was fun to try to find the perfect gift for each member of my family. We would usually drive about 30 miles to Mount Shasta or Dunsmuir and shop at the dime store. Now, when I say a lot of money, we might have $5. But $5 would buy a lot, because you could buy, what did it cost? Candy bar, a nickel?
A nickel.
So you could think
Coca-Cola costs a nickel.
yeah, so you could, so
And when it
our
says
dollar
5
is
and
a
10
lot.
cent store, a lot of things cost 5 and 10 cents.
We always looked forward to the packages we would receive from my grandparents. My grandma Carrie would usually send us presents she had made. I remember one time she made us dresses from flour sacks. These were the sacks the flowers came in, like flour that you cook and make cakes out of. They were made of flowered cloth then. My grandmother Georgie would send us things that she had purchased as she worked outside the home quite a bit. One thing she usually sent was wild strawberry jam that she had made. She picked the wild strawberries herself, and she always sent a can of sorghum molasses for my father, which I love too. In fact, that's what I got your great-grandfather's grandpa for Christmas, was a big can of sorghum molasses that I got when we were back there. Christmas morning, we would rise early as we were always anxious to know what Santa had brought us. The rule was that you couldn't go into the living room until my dad gave us the okay. Most likely they wanted to see our expressions and we viewed what Santa had left us. We would then open the remainder of our gifts. We always had large Christmas breakfast, which usually consisted of sausage, ham, eggs, biscuits, red-eye gravy, and pan gravy. It wasn't until I compiled this book that I found out that this goes back at least to my great-grandpa and Grandma Nora from my mother's side of the family. We always had a late Christmas dinner. My mother would usually do ham for Christmas and green beans that she had canned that summer, mashed potatoes, gravy, and cranberries, homemade rolls, relish plates, and pies. We always had pumpkin and apple pies and sometimes a mincemeat. We could occasionally have a turkey with cornbread stuffing. And my parents always said we had ham for Christmas, but we would occasionally have turkey. Christmas has always been my favorite holiday, and it still is. But now I have a more complete understanding of the true meaning of Christmas. Thank you. And
3 or 4. I'm not sure which. My mother sent me a big teddy bear that was sweet. I loved it, but also once she put it on it and bounced up and down. Needless to say, it didn't speak for me. As I lived with my grandmother,
Hebert.
we always had Christmas there. Also Thanksgiving, birthdays, 4th of July, etc. Most of the time, it was always Sunday dinner every Sunday dinner. Another time, I was about 6, we went to a school party at the Green Valley School. My grandma had picked a Christmas gift for me and put it under the tree. When we were passed after the children, my gift had a little miniature cupcake man. Grandma told me when we got home and was flying cupcakes ready to eat in the can. Of course, she had one and knowing that she had picked for me, but I thought that was very great. I think we had a that Christmas was when Grandma picked the start fire and the candles on the tree. My mother could still come to home as all the time, but always sent me lots of gifts. Along with these things I received from her, I really was a lucky child. We also made our stockings and oranges, nuts, and candy we cooked from them. I think now that until we grew older, Jim and I were the only ones that had that.
Yeah, Thomas and Matt. We would leave in the afternoon on Christmas Eve as we had to go by wagon and just took 2 or 3 hours on the road. After we arrived, we would eat dinner. My uncles and grandfather would play their musical instruments and we would sing Christmas songs, laugh, dance, play pitch, and visit. We always got to stay up late Christmas Eve. Before going to bed, we would hang our stockings. Our grandparents didn't put up the tree. Christmas morning, we would check our stockings. We usually found an apple, an orange, or both, nuts, and homemade candy. We always would have a big Christmas breakfast. It consisted of sausage or bacon they had killed and cured themselves, eggs from the hens, milk from the cows, biscuits and gravy, red ice, and pan. Christmas dinner was usually fried chicken, mashed potatoes, gravy, canned vegetables, no fresh or frozen ones. My grandmother would have pumpkin, custard, and cream pie. One Christmas when I was 5 or 6, my mother put up a large cedar tree and we strung popcorn for garland and put on the tree and blackberries for ornaments. We also put real candles on it. We left for my grandparents on Christmas Eve and Jessica came while we were gone. He left me a dropbox body and paints with watercolors. Candles were not lit for very long as they were a fire hazard. Grandpa Morris always liked to be the first to say Christmas gift, which was like saying Merry Christmas. He was Welsh and I always figured this was a Welsh tradition.
Christmas Eve.
Another Christmas, when I was 12, my Aunt Agnes, Uncle Ted Morris's wife, gave my sister and me a pair of rayon pants. My grandparents now live near Harrison, Arkansas, which was approximately 20 miles away. My grandfather would drive and get us in the car and take all of us home and bring us back to the Christmas night. When I was 14 or 15, my father was very sick. There was no money to buy anything for Christmas. We had to stay home that year. My mother asked us not to hang our stockings, as Santa would not be coming. My brother and I hung them anyway. The next morning, we found a cold biscuit in the silver spot. My grandpa and grandma Estes never really celebrated Christmas. We never spent Christmas there for that reason. At school each year, we would put up a cedar tree. We would decorate it with popcorn, garlands, blackberries, and real candles, which we would light, but not for very long, due to us being a fire hazard. The first Christmas after I married Toad, we spent with Grandpa and Grandma Morris. They celebrate the same as they always have. The second Christmas we spent in Oregon. We moved in on Christmas Eve, December 21st, 1940, Christmas Day. While Toad fixed the windows, I made cake. The stovepipe came apart, and as I was mixing the batter and the sweet emptied into the bowl. toast mixed the type and I started another cake. I put green food coloring in the batter and then frosted it with red frosting. We had very little, so we didn't buy each other any gifts that year. The third Christmas after we were married, we spent at MacArthur, California. Grandma Carol was a baby. We lived in the tourist court. We bought a 1935 Pontiac on the 20th of December, 1941, and on the way home we got a little Christmas tree on the side of the road. We set the tree on our trunk and added a small string of lights and foil spinners. Grandma Carol loved the lights and spinners. They would spin around and around. The lights were the kind of if one light went out, all went out. Then you would have to search for the light that needed replacement. 1943, we got a big Christmas tree, added a good string of 24 lights, ornaments, and a Christmas trellis. This was the year your great Aunt Susie was born, and your grandmother came carrying on from here.
Okay, Grandpa Pig.
Want to start right inside of that? Get the chew out. I got the chew.
We're staying at my grandpa John Humphrey's and Grandma Claire Humphrey. Your very great grandpa, my mother and I live with them. There is always a lot of especially before and Christmas. We would hang our stockings up Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. We would find something in it. I remember when we were getting a pocket knife and then we were back. And then we got and green cap with ear cap and gum. My mother worked and always made sure there was something for our supper. But sometimes Tommy got the very first night and they always keep it good. My grandparents were very people had lots of visitors. There was music, singing, and visitors. Sandwiches, candy, and nuts were put in bowls that we could hold ourselves. We always had a big Christmas tree. We would have fried chicken, turkey, or onions, mashed potatoes, raisins, and vegetables and pie. At school, we would have a big biscuit, and we would spend 10 cents so that we could buy a lot of that and that thing. We would always have a Christmas tree at school.
Oh, that was really nice.
Once upon a time, many, many years ago as time is calculated by men, but which was only yesterday in the celestial calendar of heaven, there was in paradise a most miserable, thoroughly unhappy, and utterly dejected cherub who was known throughout heaven as the littlest angel. He was exactly 4 years, 6 months, 5 days, 7 hours, and 42 minutes of age when he presented himself to the venerable gatekeeper, in waiting for admittance to the glorious kingdom of God. Standing defiantly, the littlest angel tried to pretend that he wasn't at all impressed by such unearthly splendor, and that he wasn't at all afraid, but his lower lip trembled, and a tear disgraced him by making a new furrow down his already tear-streaked face, coming to a halt at the very tip of his small freckled nose. But that wasn't all. While the kindly gatekeeper was entering the name in the guest book, the littlest angel, having left home usual without his handkerchief, endeavored to hide the telltale evidence by snuffing. A most unangelic sound this snuffing was, which so unnerved the gatekeeper that he did something he almost never did before in all eternity. He blotted a page. Although these flaws in behavior might have been overlooked, the general appearance of the littlest angel was even more disreputable than his deportment. It was first whispered among the seraphim and the cherubim, and then said aloud among the angels and archangels that he didn't even look like an angel. Now, anyone can easily understand why the littlest angel would sooner or later have to be disciplined. And so on an eternal day, an eternal month, and an eternal year, he was directed to present his small self before an angel of the peace. Angel of peace? angel of peace. The littlest angel combed his hair, he dusted his wings, and scrambled into an almost clean garment, and then with heavy heart trudged his way to the place of judgment. He tried to postpone the dreaded ordeal by loitering along the street of the guardian angel, pausing a few timeless moments to minutely inspect a long list of new arrivals, although all heaven knew that he couldn't read a word, and he idled more than several immortal moments to carefully examine the display of harps, although everyone in the celestial city knew he could not play a note. But at length and at last he slowly approached the doorway, which was surmounted by a pair of golden scales, signifying that heaven's justice was dispensed within. To the littlest angel's great surprise, he heard a merry voice singing. Oh. The littlest angel removed his halo and breathed heavily upon the halo that he removed from his head. The halo on his head he removed, and he breathed heavily upon it. No, he breathed upon it, and it did not leave his hand. And then he tried to make its appearance by rubbing it against his robe. A procedure which had nothing to do with its already untidy appearance, and then he tiptoed in. So you are the one who's been making heaven so unheavenly. Come here, cherub, and tell me all about it. The littlest angel ventured a furtive look, first one eye and then the other eye. Suddenly, before he knew it, he was standing close to the understanding angel and was explaining how very difficult it was for a boy who suddenly finds himself transformed into an angel. That was the whole trouble. There wasn't anything for a small angel to do. And he was very homesick. Oh, not that paradise wasn't wonderful, but the earth was beautiful too. Wasn't it created by God himself? Why, there were trees to climb and brooks to fish and caves to play in, a pirate chief. The swimming hole, the sun, the rain, the dark, the dawn, and the thick brown dust so soft and warm beneath your feet. The understanding angel smiled, and his eyes with the long-forgotten memory of another small boy, far long ago. Then he asked the littlest angel, what would make you most happy in paradise? The cherub thought for a moment and whispered in his ear. The cherub whispered in his ear, there's a box. I left it under my bed back home. If only I could have that. The understanding angel nodded his head. You shall have it, he promised. And a fleet-winged heavenly messenger was secretly dispatched to bring the box back to paradise. And then in all those timeless days that followed, everyone wondered in the great change of the littlest angel, for among all the cherubs in God's kingdom, he was the most happy. What could be in that box? Then it came to pass that Jesus, the Son of God, was to be born to Mary in Bethlehem in Judea. And as the glorious tidings spread throughout paradise, all the angels rejoiced, and their voices were lifted to herald the miracles of miracles, the coming of the Christ child. The angels and archangels, seraphim and cherubim, the gatekeeper, the wingmaker, and yes, even the halo-smith, put aside their usual task, prepare their gifts for the blessed infant. All but the littlest angel. He set himself down, the littlest angel set himself down on the topmost step of the golden stairs and anxiously awaited for inspiration. What could he give that would be most acceptable to the Son of God? At one time he dreamed of composing a lyric hymn of adoration, but the littlest angel was woefully wanting a musical talent. What, oh what, could a small angel give that would please the holy infant, he thought to himself. The time of the miracle was very close at hand when the littlest angel had at last decided on his gift. Then on that day of days he proudly brought it from its hiding place behind a cloud and humbly with downcast eyes placed it before God on the throne, on the ground. It was only a small, rough, unsightly box, but inside were all those wonderful things that even a child of God would treasure. The small, rough, unsightly box lying among all those glorious gifts from all the other angels in paradise, gifts of such rare and radiant splendor and breathless beauty that heaven and all the universe were lighted by the mere reflection of their glory. And when the little angel saw this, he suddenly knew that his gift to God's child was irreverent, and he devoutly wished he might reclaim this shabby gift. It was ugly, it was worthless. Oh, if only he could hide it and run away from the sight of God before it was ever noticed, but it was too late. The hand of God slowly moved over the bright array of shining gifts, and then paused and dropped, and suddenly came to rest upon the gift of a lowly little angel. The littlest angel trembled as the box was opened. And then before the eyes of God and all the heavenly hosts, what he offered to the Christ child. And what was his gift to the blessed infant? Well, there was a butterfly with golden wings, captured one bright summer day on the hills above Jerusalem. And there was a sky blue egg from a bird's nest in the olive trees that stood to shade his mother's kitchen door. Yes, and there were 2 white stones that were found on a muddy riverbank where he and his friends had played like small brown beavers at the bottom. And at the bottom of the box, a limp, tooth-marked leather strap once worn as a collar by his mongrel dog, who had died as he had lived in absolute love and infinite devotion. The littlest angel wept hot, bitter tears, for now he knew that instead of honoring the Son of God, he had been most blasphemous. Why had he ever thought that a box like this could be so wonderful? Why had he ever dreamed that such utterly useless things would be loved by this blessed infant? In frantic terror, he turned to run and hide from the divine wrath of Heavenly Father. But he stumbled and fell, and with the horrified wail and the clattering of the halo, rolled into a ball of misery to the foot of the heavenly throne. There was an ominous and dreadful silence in the celestial city. A complete silence, and undisturbed save by the heartbroken sobbing, the crying of the little infant. The soft, soft crying. Then suddenly the voice of God, like divine music, rose and swelled throughout paradise, and the voice of God spoke, saying,
Of all the gifts of all angels, I find this small box pleases me most. Its contents are of the earth and of man, and my son is born to be king of both. These are the things my son too will know, love, and cherish, and then regretfully will leave behind. When his task is done, I accept this gift in the name of the child, Jesus, born of Mary, this night in Bethlehem.
There was a breathless pause, and then the rough, unsightly box of the littlest angel began to glow with a bright, unearthly light. And then the light became a lustrous flame, and the flame became a radiant brilliance that blinded the eyes of all the angels. None but the littlest angel saw it rise from its place before the throne of God, and he alone watched it off, away from heaven, and shed its clear white beckoning light over a stable where a child was born. There it shone on the night of miracles, and its light was reflected down the centuries deep in the heart of all mankind. Yet earthly eyes, blinded too by its splendor, could never know that the lowly gift of the littlest angel was what all men would call forever the shining star of Bethlehem.
Mrs. Claus, Mrs. Claus, and Mrs. Claus. Hey, it's the real Santa Claus. Look at that. The real Santa.
Okay, it's time. About 5 minutes.
Before all the mayhem. Okay, who's in this? Okay, here's the rules now. You have to cover your eyes, walk backwards, and hop.
Right.
Okay, you can just come.
Eric, did Santa Claus bring you a doll? Oh, sorry, Eric, the doll's not
Is this mine?
Oh, that's You got it? Is this something you want to say? Oh, Charlie got the taxi.
Look up to me, Aaron. Aaron, you're stopping. Look up to me, Aaron.
Great.
We couldn't get it over here, son.
You know who motored the
So we kept taking an airplane, so we'll pick it out when we get over to Atlanta.
That was his buddy. Be careful, put my fingers in there. He might eat you. That's all right.
A mini airplane with a teacher.
We're going to have to put your
Yeah, another one that I didn't.
You want to put your stuff in your bag here?
The other one.
Hey,
Only the teacher. Or the extra stuff.
come here. Can I see you this
Okay,
morning?
yeah. That would be.
Boogie. Boogie. Hey, little booger.
Did I pretend it got you? Yeah, my team left.
What'd you get, bud? Clothes.
Oh, now you know better. Bring my clothes. I remember 2 years ago it was closed. Eric, sit up in line.
Hey, Desiree. Desiree.
And grandma and me.
Here, your grandmother always has stuff for you.
How pretty.
Eric, what kind of clothes did you get, by the way?
Hey, Grandpa. Good.
Do you want me to just...
You know what, Eric?
Grandpa,
Leave
you're...
them in your bag, okay?
Oh, elbow!
No, that's a Jared.
It's Jared.
What is it, bud? Cross radio.
Radio.
Sharon.
Oh, I'm a good person. Look how big that is. We didn't
It's so hard. Look how big it is.
It's Grandma Carol.
Too much. My ear and friends. Cool.
What is it, Dad?
Trumpet player.
From Germany.
I know.
Make it into an earring.
The Huffman.
You know that picture of you?
Okay, go, Eric.
Christmas boy. Christmas boy, what's up?
Yeah, I said I like your face.
Just a close, it might just help, but if it doesn't, what the heck? May all yours be quiet, little boy. It's early, the old fart. Fartless chili maker. I can use one of those, Blake.
You're awesome.
You got Action Man too, huh? Which one you get, Blake?
This one.
Hey, you know what? He's a walkie-talkie. You can talk to him, and he'll say things. Okay.
My turn?
Yeah. Computer wrist.
Yeah.
You got computer wrist.
Whoa, cool.
We're playing.
You can't play here, no computer.
Baloney bond.
You can open up from the top like that. The music box.
Oh, how beautiful. And it's got a rocking horse. That is Look here, let's get this one right here.
Thank you.
That thing had to get major repair jobs from Grandma Carol because there was a problem when that shipped over. She ripped her honey off.
She did. I'll vouch for that. Mom actually worked? Did she?
I know exactly what it is.
How beautiful. Thank you, guys.
You put that on the top,
Beautiful.
and it spins around by the candle.
I love these.
That's what the candles are.
These are really neat. Thank you.
Be careful with the thing on the bottom. With the cup.
Open it. Open it.
What is it, Grandma Carol?
I don't know. Beautiful.
Your mom and dad. And Grandma.
Oh, gorgeous.
Well, I'll get it for you, Mom.
There you go.
He didn't buy it.
I didn't.
I bought it, and he came in.
You've been paying for it in a few hours, really.
That is beautiful.
Hello, Mom.
Are you going to turn it on?
What is it?
Little outside guy.
I got that. This is for me and
The song's a German song, Mama.
Hessian and
I love it.
Isn't that beautiful?
Daddy's another one.
Oh,
There's
right.
7 churches. What's that?
That's the